welcome back. Oh my God, did you hear that? I thought my speakers were live in the room. I guess I just turned it up too far past my headphones. Hey, what's up? It's Jack. I'm back. Gonna be trying to hit this live a little more often. Now that coming in the home stretch of some stuff from work-wise, and then also personal project-wise. My hair is looking awesome today. I just got back from my walk. I do a big. Let's see how long this walk is. I'm curious about this. Sorry, side tangent. This is about me, not you. So I shouldn't show where I live. So let me just Google it. Anyway, I just got back from my walk, and I just took a shower before my walk, which was really dumb. And now I need to take another shower because it is hot again. This walk is directions. 0.8 miles. So if I do it there and back, that's 1.6 miles. Oh, that's pretty good. 1.6 mile, like a 1.5 mile walk, depending on like the route that I take. Nice. And it says it should take 17 minutes to walk it. I don't think it takes me 17 minutes. I think I walk it pretty quick. I got a brisk walk pace. Anyway, today is mixing. I'm going to be trying to do some mixing live. Let's pop over here into my session. I've already kind of chipped away at this a little bit. And I wanted to kind of show, this is documenting for myself because I feel like I'm good at getting what I want. I've always been good at making stuff work and just like getting to the end result that I wanted, or at least really close to it. I wouldn't say I'm the best. Anything that I do is going to take me like 3 to 5, maybe even 8 times as long as someone who just like does this one thing all the time. But that is the downside to being a jack of all trades, is that while I can get to an end result that is close to as good as the masters most time, it just takes me a little longer to get there. But that's okay, because I have the time. When you're making stuff for the first time, especially your own music, the last thing I think that you'd want to do, I remember my friend Mark was telling me, or drummer Mark was telling me a story about, there's an album that this guy made that's like a kind of 60s, 70s retro sort of vibe. Super cool stuff, really cool album. I listened to a lot of it, and it's wonderful. But the amount of money he spent to make that album, I want to say was in like the $100,000 range, because like he hired like full session musicians. Like we're talking like string arrangements, like horn arrangements, like all the bells and whistles that you would have had back in the day that you would have paid good money for because you had an label backing you, and nobody listened to that album. And I think at the end of the day, and that's one of the things that I've come to terms with, is that no one knows who Grand Kitten is, or at least very few. We don't have a huge local following by any means because we don't play out live enough. And that's okay. That'll come later. I wanted to have the material first. I may be putting the cart before the horse, but the way that I wanted to operate with Grand Kitten was I wanted to have really great material first, and then go out and execute that great material live, and then immediately people can go and listen to it. It exists immediately. The first album was in that territory, and we got a lot of really great fans pretty quickly, but we didn't play enough shows. We needed to play more shows. The problem was, as we were playing those shows, I realized pretty quickly, oh, this set's not quite what I was hoping for. I need something more. I need more energy out of this set, and I knew I needed some more songs. It felt like I was always struggling with the set list and placement because we only had a few songs that were super high energy. The rest of it was kind of more mid-tempo. And while I liked those songs as headphone songs, I loved that first album, I knew I needed more high energy stuff for the live. And the hope is that we go play live with the high energy stuff. That brings people into the Grand Kitten catalog of songs. They start to explore the Grand Kitten catalog of songs. They find the first album. They find songs that they love that maybe we don't play live as much right now. But then over time, those songs get popular, and we bring those songs back to live again. But either way, I'm stoked on this new album. It's sounding really good. A lot of high energy stuff, but really diverse in general. It's been really cool to see the different mixes of songs that people like. Like my mom's favorite song is the one I'm going to work on today, The Journey Home. My cousin's favorite song sounds like it's probably Dancing with the Darkness. He kind of likes a lot of it, but that one kind of sticks with him. Mark's favorite song, I think, is Alpha to Oblivion. So it's kind of all over the place in terms of what people like, which is really great. I think that's a really great sign when you can't quite pick what your favorite song is, or the favorites are all across the board and there's not just one general that sticks out and the rest are kind of meh. You know what I mean? So feeling really good about this, but yeah, we need to get out and start playing it live again. I feel like I've lost my train of thought now, but let's get into, I wanted to show the mixing process, because again, I'm a jack of all trades, not the best at this, but I feel like I'm pretty good. I've got a pretty good handle on this. So I want to dig in here. I guess the first thing I'll show is my bus setup. So what I've done is I already have a really good basic mix of everything without the drums, basically. And that's what this track is here. So if I play this here, bring the volume down.
I feel my soul exit my body. Spirit
So I feel like with that, I've got a really great starting block for getting things going. You know, I don't think there's anything crazy here that needs to be done. I've been really happy with the way that this sounds. So cool, we've got a good starting place. That's you know, number one. So then let's get the drums in there, right? And so the way that with Horacio, at least, it'll be a little bit different with Mark, but it'll be similar because I plan on using a similar miking setup. He gives me, here's his drums down here, and you can see I've used multiple takes. Here's take 2, take 3, and take 5. I don't think I used anything from take 6. I think there's a take 4, maybe take 1 I didn't use anything from. And the majority is this take 3, which is his main full take, and then we had some overdubs here from take 5, and I think there's some stuff from take 2 that I preferred in this earlier section. But so if I drop this down, you can see we've got kick in, kick out, and if you watch, let me see if I can pull this over just a second. I'm gonna bring this out like that and pull this over so you can see more of the channel strip on the left. If you watch over here, the amount of channel strip stuff I have in each of these is kind of crazy, and also sometimes nothing. So that's the kick. And you can see I've really carved the F out of this kick in. And it's interesting because you can see how low the kick out is versus the kick in. I've primarily used the kick in from his stuff. So the kick in, I believe, is a Beta 91. Am I getting that right? Sure, Beta 91. Show me images, please. Yeah, this boundary mic. So that is his kick in mic, and I'm primarily using that. Let's take a listen to what I've got on this right now. Like, I get more snap from the Beta 91 on the inside, and a lot more low end than I would have expected. I would have thought those low end frequencies would be much further away from the drum. Now, granted, he doesn't do like a what do you call it? A Yamaha, like a sub. He doesn't do a sub kick. I feel like I'm getting the sub kick with this. The kick out is, and you can see here, I've got nothing on this right now. Actually, this is actually just a Shure, the Beta 52. Is that right? Yeah, Beta 52. So this is at what the volume? 15.8. So a lot warmer, obviously, sound, not as much top end on it. And I kind of needed the kick to cut a little more. So I'm kind of just mixing this in just a little bit to give it a little bit of poof. What we at for 15.8? You can see how low it was before. If we do this to top one again. And we add this in. It's like here as opposed to here. Yeah, there's something right here. I don't know why I hear it here, that this is adding just a tiny bit. It's probably not necessary, and it's probably barely doing anything, but either way, that's what that. Let's turn off, I'm curious if we turn off all these plugins. Now, I don't want to confuse myself. So it's the top 4, then it's these 2, right? So if I turn off these top 4, and then these 2, let's hear what that sounds like on its own. So it's getting a lot of extra, like it's getting that floor tom like crazy, which we hear it when I mix it otherwise. But yeah, so with the expander first. And these are all stock Logic plugins. I don't have any fancy plugins. So I think this feels like it's tightening it up a little bit. Yeah. I couldn't tell you what it's doing because you can see here I just chose high expansion. I probably went through these 3 different settings and felt like high expansion was doing something that I wasn't getting otherwise. I'm not great at mixing, I'm just great at digging through all this crap to get kind of what I'm looking for. I have some kind of instincts on how stuff should work. Expander for me, is it the expander? I feel like I can usually get stuff to pop a little more than just a compressor. But you tell me in the comments, what is the expander actually doing that the compressor is not doing? Now here's with the compressor. So compressors can bring the volume up. But now we've just got way too much beef in there. I feel like a lot of times in my mixing process, I do a thing and then I do a thing that negates the first thing that I did. Then I fix it, then I negate it again, then I fix it, then I negate it again. That's probably all he's doing. So if we look at this first channel EQ, you can see we're cutting out a lot of lows. Let's turn it on. We're cutting out a lot of lows here, a lot of mud probably in this direction. We're cutting off a little bit, and then adding in this high shelf here, probably to get more of the top end back in there. I might not be doing shit, I don't know, but let's hear it without it. Yeah. Getting some of that mud out of there for sure. I think this is tom range probably that we're getting out of there a little bit. But it's definitely not there yet, right? Got a nice smack in the top, but it's way too much. So then I used a match EQ. Now this match EQ I'm pretty sure is based on the Logic kick drum that I normally use from the Retro Rock kit. Do I have one in here? I could probably throw one together real quick. So typically with the Logic drummer, if I go to my natural kits and we open up this, I don't know if I want to do that. Let's just do a new track and we'll do drummer. We'll choose the rock, creates. I don't want this, but so then what I'll do is I'll change this to Retro Rock. Retro Rock immediately changes the kit, and then if we go into the kit here, drum kit, you can see this is the kind of standard kit. The only thing I changed with this is, well, I changed a lot of stuff, but like the main thing is changing this kick to this kick. So if we hear this kick, I gotta solo it. And I do use this kick sometimes for certain sounds. And it's nice because you can dampen that down. I usually bring the gain on the kick up to 2. So it's got a nice poof, not a nice poof, nice poof to it. I use this kick probably for softer songs or songs that I need the kick to not be a clicky kick. If I want a clicky kick, I do this kick. Really nice. It's got a nice poof to it. It's got a nice click to it. So I like that sound overall. Let's undampen it. So I think I usually go with the dampened probably. And that's usually the kick sound. So what I probably did was I made a loop of just that kick. I exported it out as a WAV file. Then I brought that WAV file. Let's get rid of this. Then I brought that WAV file into the Match EQ plugin. So if I go back to my kick here, I go to my Match EQ. And this reference is probably from that kick specifically. This is from my kick. This is the reference kick, so you can see the difference. My kick's got a lot more low end here. It's got some bullshit up here. The reference kick cuts that out nicely there. Look at that. It's kind of got a carve here. It's kind of got a carve at 100, it looks like, versus mine. Yeah, mine's got way too much 100. It's got a dip here for some reason. So using this reference, using all this, and then we end up getting this EQ curve like this. It's cutting down some certain frequencies, and I'm only using it 25%. It's not a huge percentage, but let's listen with and without. So here's without. And then I don't know. I feel like it's barely doing anything, but yeah, whatever, it's there. All right, next thing that we add, I believe, is the linear EQ, then channel EQ, then this, right? If I go back, I'm going to go back in I have my live stream up over here on the side. I'm just going to go back in my live stream and see which ones I had on before, just to double check. Yeah, the last 2, or let's see. It was the top 4, and then this one and this one. Okay, so our next one to look at is this one. So then we did this huge, this is I think where the magic finally happened for me, was this carve. Because I just wasn't happy with that kick, and I finally added in this. I feel like there's still something else. I feel like there's another like huge low end thing that I did. But yeah, cutting out all of this garbage frequency here, and let's see what this difference makes. So without, with. And then I think depending on the song, I add the space designer. So this space designer is just the channel 7 drum plate. So if you go to small spaces, you go to plate reverbs, you go to drum plate. I've got it only wet 23%. So I'm just adding a tiny bit of room sound. Actually, it's a lot of room sound, to be honest. But in the mix, you kind of have to add it up just a little bit more than you think you would isolated, because it'll get lost without. Yeah, and I'm just gonna double check and make sure that that's what I had before when I first opened this up, but I believe that was my kick, right? Yeah, the top 4 plugins, and then the bottom, and then one above that. That's my kick sound. So that's what we ended up doing with that's with the kick in, the Beta 91. Again, the kick out, we don't do anything. Now the snare, the almighty snare, this gets a lot of work as well. So we'll use this snare section right here. We'll just solo. Let's look at the bottom, just so you can see first. You can see I've done nothing to the bottom of the snare. I think I tried to do a bunch of stuff and none of it was working. Sometimes if I want a little more reverb in the snare, I'll add it to the bottom as opposed to the entire top, because that'll inform the snare, but it won't be so big sounding, but it'll still be there to give a little bit of space for the snare specifically. This song, apparently I didn't add it, so other songs I kind of do. But this is what the snare bottom sounds like. I'm not sure what mic he's using for the snare bottom. Sounds like a snare bottom. Now let's listen to the snare top. So we'll listen to what we got so far right now. Ooh, weird. How do I describe that? Let's add the snare bottom back in. That'll probably make it sound a little more natural. It's still got some weirdness to it, I won't lie. In isolation, I wouldn't have chose that snare sound, I don't think. You'll see it makes sense later, and maybe I may need to change it a little bit. But let's look. Okay, so on this one, I've got the top, these 2, and then the bottom 4. So let's turn all these off. 2, 3, 4. I will say I do struggle with his snare a little bit. It's not my main choice for snare sound, but I am able to basically get what I want. And we're just going to isolate the top. Here we go. It's got a ping to it. It's not a bad snare sound. Like if we listen to it with just the kick. But I like a more beefy 200 hertz boosted snare. So let's look at what the expander is doing first. With the expander, I'm doing the more punch preset. I doubt I've changed anything in here, but it's been a while. Here we go. So a little more isolated. Turn it off. So yeah, we're starting to isolate the kick, which is nice. Then we're going to do our first EQ. This first EQ looks like we're cutting out some low end for sure. We're boosting a little bit of low end, the 252, cutting out some 450, cutting out some 1060, and then boosting a little bit of 383. My guess was this is a first pass on trying to start the carve to get rid of some pinginess probably. Maybe a little bit of mud and some pinginess, but make sure we're keeping some attack and adding a little bit of low end. Let's see what this is doing here. Of course, this is after the expansion. Without. With. Yeah, so we're just cutting out a little bit of low end. I can't hear a huge difference, but to be honest, I don't hear a huge difference, but maybe I heard something different on my monitors and not on my headphones. Okay, so then we had this EQ. So this EQ, we really start to carve this thing out. Looks like I'm going to bring a lot of highs into it to get it to pop on the top end. Now we're really starting to boost that low end, the 326. I don't know if that's actually correct. I feel like this should be more of a 200 boost, but we'll see in a second, see what this sounds like. And then we're cutting out even more lows. This is probably redundant from the last EQ that I did because, yeah, we already had that kind of. So this is where I kind of just start doing stuff. That's probably not smart, but well, again, jack of all trades. But you tell me if it sounds good. Without. With. it's starting to get closer to the snare sound that I like. I do think that there's a chance that this 326 might not be the right choice. This might need to come down to the 200, but I'm going to leave it alone because I like the end result as of right now. That's basically the EQ carve for this snare. Now, granted, we're not hearing it at the bottom. Let's add the bottom in and see if that brings some naturalness back. I think it's still be a little weird. Yeah. That's pretty good. Now, granted, I should admit, you are hearing this through this bus right here that's doing a lot of stuff too. We probably should be hearing this without any of the bussing, but it is what it is. We've already come this far. Up next, we've got our first space designer. This is the snare chamber. Without, with. So, just a little bit around it, right? To me, that's making the snare feel a little fatter, fuller. It's not like a massive reverb. It's just adding a little bit of space around it to make it last maybe a little bit longer. Then we have the snare long. This is going to extend the reverb. Without. With. Again, this might not be necessary. I honestly don't know why I have that on there. And then finally, we're going to use the deep 80s drum set preset on the chroma verb, I think, to finally make the snare feel like it's like a bigger snare. Without. With. Yeah. And honestly, it's starting to get to a natural point, I'm not going to lie. But let's listen to the kick and snare bus now. So what you're hearing doesn't probably sound as good as it should, and that's because I'm pretty sure the way I've done the toms bus, the tom is bringing out a ton of the snare as well, and so we're getting maybe more of the low end of the snare out of the toms, but I'm not sure yet. We're going to find out, and it may be coming from the room mics as well. But that's basically our kick and snare setup. I guess let's look at our kick and snare bus as well and see what all this sounds like without everything that's happening on the bus. So you can see the bus right here. The first thing I've got is a compressor, then the multipressor, then an EQ, and then at the very bottom a channel EQ. All this stuff in between is me just trying other stuff. So this multipressor setting is probably very close to this multipressor setting, and like that's where I started, and this is where I ended up, kind of. And I do a lot of this is my Photoshop work, where you copy and paste a thing, you make a thing, and then you want to change it, so you duplicate it, so you can always go back to the original. And then I end up with a ton of duplicates of stuff. It's a messy process, but again, jack of all trades, not a professional. So let's turn all these off. Again, we got compressor and then this so we got three, skipping one and then the very bottom. So we're gonna turn all of these off and listen to this without any of that stuff. It doesn't sound bad. It's a really good starting point. Okay, so then let's add the compressor. Probably just bring up the volume most likely. See what the compressor setting is currently. So we're using, this looks like a custom setting that I set up. I'll leave it up and we'll listen to it. Yeah, heavy compression. No distortion, it's on off. No real makeup volume, just a lot of input gain, really juicing that up. Threshold -20, ratio 2:1. Yeah, really bringing everything out basically. Then there's a good chance that what the multipressor is going to do, it's just going to carve that out to make everything a little bit smoother. So if I look at my multipressor setting, I'm bringing the mid lows from between like 180 to like 800 down a little bit. I am compressing that a bit, compressing the lows, but boosting that a little bit. I've got the mids here and the highs there. So this is just going to be a general sort of a mix of, I love the multipressor. Multipressor can give you a lot, but also take away a lot. But usually I use a multipressor to do heavy EQ carving with compression. It's with, or it's without, sorry. Is that without? And we'll do with. And wow, it's really been a lot of highs and highs. I mean, that's a crazy amount of highs that I chose to bring in, but maybe we're going to squash that with the EQ. Sorry, so here's our first EQ. Looks like we're cutting out some lows because I got some real super deep lows in there. We're bringing up the 200 hertz a little bit, kind of get that snare fattened out, getting some of my mid snap depth fattened out, and then we're basically going to squash some of those highs that we just added. Man, I tell you, sometimes I do a thing and then I just negate it with this, but it all works for the secret sauce in the end, you know? Tell me I'm good. Okay, so let's listen without. Snare here. Without. A lot of deep lows, right? And then we'll bring it in. Here it is. Much more tame. You still have the character of all that stuff happening. There's still some deep lows that are probably not so good, but really good start. To tame it, yeah, that low is a little too much still. And then let's go to the last thing. We do another channel EQ on it, and it looks like this last channel EQ is just to carve out a little more of the lows. I doubt we're even going to be able to hear. And I don't even know if I can tell the difference, to be honest. So that's our basic kick snare bus. But that's not the end, because our kick snare bus is going to go to a final drums bus here in a second. So that's our kick and snare. That's our final kick and snare sound for the most part. But I guarantee you that the other mics are going to play a big part in making all that sound better. So let's move on to our toms now. We'll find a cool toms part. It looks like this next part might be a decent toms part. And we can come down here. Now, what I've done here is, this is kick out. This is a duplicate of that. So down here is this take and kicking it out. These all go to the same buses. So if I go to the toms down here, you can see my bus stays the same. So that's kind of nice. I got everything going the same bus. I think in the future with these projects, what I want to do is actually, instead of having all my like kick effects here, I actually want to just have all the raw parts in here, and then have like a kick bus, a kick out bus, a snare top bus, a snare bottom bus, and then have those buses go to place. So when I add in different parts of a session, because I'm not getting them as multi-comped, I'm not getting them as comped, and maybe there's a way to comp these back together to make them a comp. I don't know how to do that, but anyway. Whatever. Let's go to this tom section here. Maybe is this tom section? Where's a good tom section? This was the tom section I wanted to see. Maybe. Yeah, this is a good tom section here. So let's just solo the toms bus first of all. Yeah, listen to the top end coming on this stuff, and that's from the enveloper happening, not the expander, but the enveloper. I have my toms are way on the far side panning wise, and that is deliberate. I wanted a wide tom sound for this song. For Alpha Oblivion, the next song, it's a little closer together because it's a little more standard rock. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't love this tom sound right off the bat, but in the mix, that's kind of what it needed to be. So let's listen to, let me turn off all of this stuff. So this direct mix, is that direct mix supposed to be on? No, because the direct mix is on at the end. This direct mix is, when he sends me the files, he actually images the kit the opposite direction of what I would image it. So he images the kit based on his perspective, drummer perspective, to where the hi-hat ends up being on this side, on his actual this side, right? But if you're looking at the drums, the hi-hat's always on that side. I don't know if my hands are doing the right thing, but basically he does a reversed image. So I do a direct mix, and I can change the direction. Actually, this isn't what this is doing. This direct mix is for something else. This direct mix is to weight the kit differently. I think I use this somewhere else. Well, if you listen, you can kind of feel that the overall mix of this, I think if I brought up like a analyzer, it feels like it's all weighted this way. And I want to say if I turn this on, that was worse actually. I think where it matters is when the snare comes in, because the snare is getting picked up in the high tom, which is way over here. And so I think I tried to weight the kit this way a little bit with the direct mix to try to bring that snare back to center. But honestly, in the end, it didn't matter, and I think I just kept that out. So anyway, let's turn all these off and let's listen to it dry. The direct mix is not part of the final thing. Okay, and we'll just listen to all the toms together. And this sounds way more natural, to be honest. The problem with it sounding way more natural is it wasn't cutting through the mix. Like all this was getting lost. And there's probably some carving I could do with my original music, but it was gonna take too much, and so I started doing what I could to take these sounds, going a little unnatural, but to get them to pop in the mix a little bit more. in the end, it might have been a bad choice, but we'll see. So I have done some EQ carves. I think all of these are just EQ carves, basically. Yeah, they all look like just EQ carves. So if we go to my high tom here, it looks like it does some high tom parts. Let me just solo the high tom here. We'll take the EQ off. Might be just that one place he does the high tom there. Maybe I'll find a different section real quick. Give me a second, because this is the toms here, the same exact setting. So high tom. See if he does some more high tom somewhere else. It's really not a lot. Not a lot of. I could have swore there was more high tom fills. Maybe in this last take 6 section. I think that might be where, yeah, this might be where the cool stuff is at. It's not take 6, it's the last take. Yeah, take 5. Here we go. Here's where the cool stuff is at, I think. He does some cool runs on the toms that follow the guitar solo. So if we look at the high tom here, there should be a little more stuff going on. So and that's with the EQ on. Oh, I need to turn the EQ back on that other one that we were just messing with, or else I'm gonna screw myself. High tom. Let's turn this one back on. And again, that's why I want the bus. I just want to, at this point, I just want to make a high tom bus and then have every one of these tracks just go through a high tom bus first. And then, so I don't have 3 different tracks with effects on it. I just have one bus with the effect on it, and then that would go to the, so you have a tom bus, you have a kick bus, you have a kick out bus, all these different buses for each of the drums. Then all your raws can just go through those buses. Then those buses would go to the next bus, which would be like the kick snare bus, the toms bus, the overheads bus, the room bus, and then those. Then I think what I'd want to do is actually have the drum and the snare and kick bus and the toms bus go to its next, like, all close mics bus, and then finally those 3 buses, close mics, because I like to be able to mix the toms differently after the fact, not have to go back and change the volume constantly, but have the toms have their own volume fader, but then have a final, close mics, overheads, and then room, and then have those 3 go to a final drum bus where I can finally do some final carving, EQ carving overall. That's probably the way I do it next, more optimally. But right now it's just kick snare bus, toms bus, overheads bus, room bus, and then those all go to a final bus. So it's not quite as clean as I would like quite yet. But so here's without the EQ carve that I've done. If we look at this EQ carve, this is what it looks like. I've just taken a lot of lows out, and it looks like I've just kind of cleaned up some mud and maybe added a little bit of top into it. Without. And the width. Yeah, just taking some lows out. I've kind of honestly a little bit neutered it on the low end, but added some highs into it. Let's listen to the mid tom. And here's without the EQ. Yeah, just getting rid of some mud probably, and then getting rid of some low end that just wasn't necessary. And adding a little bit of top end on there. So here's the high and mid together. Nice. And then finally the floor tom. Let's see what I've done to this floor tom. I did both floor toms differently, and I don't know why. So again, rolling off some lows, cutting out some lows, adding in some 200 and some 95. Those are probably its dominant frequencies that I could see, trying to make sure that the dominant frequencies were boosted while cutting just a little bit. Getting rid of some mud, putting its dominant frequency high top end back in, and then I don't know, I kept doing this high top end thing just to give it back. I'm going to take it away later, don't worry. But floor tom. Still a lot of low end, right? Take the EQ off. That's on. So I think it's just adding a little bit, but it's not much, that's for sure. And then finally the low floor tom down here, and this EQ looks like this. So a lot more carb in this one, and this is probably like this because this is the floor tom that he rides on the most. Let me see if I can find a section where he does some floor tom. Yeah, like right here. So there's some floor tom riding without. Oh wait, is this the right one? Probably not. Without. So there's just like a little bit of cardboard sound in there, I want to get rid of that. I want to accentuate the highs a little more and cut out some of that low end. So we'll go back and we'll turn it on. I might have got rid of a little too much mids, but in the end, that was right for the part. And again, we get a lot of that back with the overheads and the room mic, you know what I mean? But here's all together. And if we had our enveloper. The enveloper's really going to bring everything to the forefront, but it's also going to screw me because it's also going to bring the snare up like crazy. So here's without. With. Watch when this, I'm going to turn it back off when the snare comes in here in a second. So I'm going to pull it back and I'm going to do it with. Hear how much snare? And it's like, it's off balance as well, right? So it's not like it's not a good thing necessarily. But that's what I had to do to really get the drums to the forefront, was that first of all. Then we had the compressor. So just bringing the volume up now. Looks like we turned the input, we used tom compression, really brought the input gain up. Turn this back down a little bit. And keep in mind, like the volume seemed crazy there, but I also had the volume up higher than it needed to be right now. So input gains up quite a bit. But yeah, just bringing up that volume now, basically. And see, we're also bringing up a lot of cymbals. Like, you almost don't need the overheads anymore. Like, this is probably where I've kind of screwed myself and gone too much, but this is what I had to do to bring the toms out. Then we're going to do an EQ carve. This EQ carve is going to cut out some highs, cut out some more lows, cut out some upper mids. Let's listen with this. Without. With. So just taming those lows a little more. But leaving the highs. It's starting to get better. And look, we got one more EQ happens. So this time we're going to cut out some mid-lows. We're going to boost a little more of the highs, it looks like. Here we go. Without. And... oh, now we're really neutering it, right? But ultimately smoothing it out, I think, overall. There's a good chance that all those lows and mid-low frequencies would probably get in the way of a lot of stuff. And then finally we added a space designer. This space designer is drum booth 1. Just got it, it's up just a little bit. Here's without. And with. Barely adding. I think, I want to say this is, I wonder if I've got an EQ on this. No, I don't. So a lot of times I'll do an EQ on this and I'll bring up some frequencies via the space designer. To accentuate highs that I want, that I don't want to just EQ them. I'll use the space designer, so it's something in the background that kind of gets brought up. Sometimes it works nicely, and sometimes it doesn't matter. It looks like this is just barely adding a tiny bit of top end that you wouldn't have had otherwise without. With. I can barely tell the difference. There's probably like a little bit of room separation maybe, or some separation happening, but that's our toms. That's our tom bus. Up next, let's check out our overheads bus. So with the overheads, I run the hi-hat. He gives me a hi-hat mic, 2 stereo overheads, and then a ride. Let's listen to just the 2 overhead. Let's listen to the ride. Let's listen to the hi-hat first. I don't think I really do much with the hi-hat mic, to be honest. And you can see how low it is. He really keeps the hi-hat low. Like you don't, I barely even see the transients in there. If I crank this, start to see something. I see 1. Where's it at? Right here. I have no EQ on this. And with the overhead bus, I also have very little EQ. It looks like I have no idea what I'm doing here. It looks like I'm kind of bringing everything down. I'm bringing a lot down right here because there's probably some nastiness in the 3800. And then I'm lifting the very end of the highs just a tiny bit. But this is probably doing nothing. It's doing a little bit maybe. Let's listen to the 2 overheads. With the overheads, I have no effects on them whatsoever, and it's just that channel EQ. Here's without. And with, oh, let me go back. So, and with. Yeah, just dropping the low end out of it basically. Getting rid of some nastiness, it sounds like. And let's see what's done with the ride. Did I do anything to the ride? Yeah, I've got a channel EQ on the ride. I don't know why. Sorry. Be nice if I could find a ride part, right? There it is. So without. Yeah, there's some low end stuff I didn't like in that, I think. So I'll just add a little top end to it. The top end's probably not necessary. And then if I bring in the EQ, the overall EQ, tames it a little bit, right? I might have completely neutered it, to be honest. I don't know. But then altogether. And you can hear those toms popping quite a bit in that, right? If I bring the tom bus in. All right, so then finally, let's check out our room mics. With the room mics, I've done no EQ, no anything to them. I've just added a EQ to their bus, and their bus EQ is doing this. So here's without the bus EQ. Sorry, that's the final mix. So obviously I barely have them in at all. And if we add in the EQ, so it's hard to say. Like, I feel like the room mics just give me some oomph in the very center of the entire kit, not in the low end so much, but just the mids kind of. That doesn't feel like it's coming unnaturally from somewhere. But you can see it's barely up. I mean, like, this is at negative 12.4. If we look at all of my drum buses here, can I show this? Yeah, so here's my kick. This is my kick snare bus right here. None of these matter. In fact, let me turn on my final bus and you'll see what actually matters. So there's the kick. This is the kick snare bus, which is peaking every once in a while. There's your toms bus. My overheads bus and my room mic bus. The room mic bus is barely in there. Turn it off. And with. There's probably an argument to be made that it actually sounds cleaner without that, but again, in the overall mix is what matters. So when we finally hear the overmix, and actually I think this sounds bad, to be honest. In isolation, I would mix this differently if it was just isolated drums, to be honest. I think the kick is, well, and we haven't addressed something yet. There's something I'm going to address here in a minute that I did on Alpha to Oblivion last night or 2 nights ago that I haven't done to this song yet, because there's still some stuff I want to tame, and I'll show you it here in a minute. But this is where I ended up until we're going to do this last trick. So again, that's our final buzz. This sounds pretty good here. It's mostly when the cymbals come in, it kind of feels like too much. Everything definitely feels overhyped, that's for sure. Some weird unnatural reverb in there a little bit. Kick is way too aggressive, I think. That reverb probably can be turned off. I would turn the reverb off if it's just isolated. The snare smack is pretty nice. You know, I didn't like that snare in isolation, but here it makes sense. But what matters is in context. So when you listen to the entire song in context, and I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. So as you can hear in the rest of the instrumentation, there's a lot of top end in there. There's a lot of mids, I guess. I don't have a ton of lows in that other than the bass guitar or maybe the synth sometimes. So the drums have to fill a certain space that's not quite as natural because I didn't leave the natural space for the drums when I was recording the other stuff because I was filling up the space when I was recording the other stuff and I was going off of a completely different drum sound. So I've kind of had to tailor his kit into the sound of a different drum kit, which is not necessarily ideal. Ideally, I would have recorded all the drums first and then recorded everything else on top of that, and then everything would have mixed much easier. But that's not the way this worked because, you know, I didn't have the drum part first. I had all everything else first. We could always go back and re-record, but anyway, I'm happy with this. The guitar part feels a little rushed right there, doesn't it? I I still need to go back and re-record those guitars. I've done it a few times now, and it just, I can never get it quite as clean as I would like. But that's the drum mix. It feels a little low in the mix right now, but I'm going to trust what I did a couple days ago. Right now I'm focused on the drums, so it's like I want to hear the drums a little more, but I'm pretty sure this is correct and where I want it. What I know though is that there's still some frequencies that are a little harsh that I want to get rid of, and the low end still feels overhyped, and that's what I started to address. So what I did was, and it's hard to show, let me see if I can show it better here. Here. If I get out of the way. So this is, oh, can you see it? Oh no, you can't, it's cut out of the frame. Oh wait, if I go back this way, you can see it. Oh, let me just do that, sorry. I can just move the whole thing over this way. We'll see my desktop a little bit, but this is my final master bus here. So I've got a lot going on. I've got an exciter, I've got a linear EQ, a graphic EQ, a compressor, multipressor. This is kind of like, you can see it's called Jack's Final Rock. So it's like, it's a bus that I've made that kind of just works across the board. That's like my mastering bus. And sometimes the exciter makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. The exciter is very little. It's adding a little bit of top-end harmonics. Linear EQ is barely doing anything. It's shaving off a little bit of lows, shaving off a little mid-lows, boosting a little bit of 350. But I mean, this thing is probably barely noticeable. It's probably more of a placebo than anything. Then we've got this graphic EQ. I've started using these the vintage EQs a little more, and I tried this enhanced mix. I'm pretty sure this is literally just under mix bus, and then this is the enhanced mix, and I probably left it. Maybe I changed the drive a little bit. I might have brought this down, but honestly, like, this is all I did, was just this. So this is what it is. I'll go through and listen with and without these. Yeah, I might as well just do that, right? Let's just turn all these off. The Space Designer is the one we don't want, and we'll just listen to what each one of these is doing to the final mix. We should pick a section. I feel like that solo section probably is good as a good section to pick. So it actually sounds pretty good without the mastering bus again. It might sound better, to be honest. You hear the toms still, but they're not overplaying. I'll be honest, that mix on its own, like it is, sounds really good. I really like that. I hadn't actually listened to it without the mastering bus on, and I actually like the way it sounds. All right, let's go back and let's do the first one. So the first one is the exciter. Here's without the exciter. I'll turn on the next measure. It's doing a tiny little bit of lift. I don't know if I can even tell in these headphones. And again, this may be totally placebo effect. I don't know. All right, let's go to the linear EQ and see if the linear EQ is doing anything, right? It's funny too, yeah, I can barely tell. I think this is gonna make the biggest difference here. So I'm gonna turn this on like this, and I'm gonna this plugin's nice because you can do this, and that toggles it a little better than if you toggle it with the on switch there. So this is off. We're currently not in. There we go. I'm not gonna lie, I actually almost like the mix better without it. I feel like this might be overhyping a little bit. It sounds a little more natural without it, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm gonna leave it because it's a choice I made that I've liked so far. But I make a note to come back to that because this might be overhyping things a little bit. Up next is the compressor. Let's hear what the compressor's doing. So with this compressor, input gain's not changed, makeup's is about the same. We're doing a 1:4 ratio, thresholds at -15. Attack release, mixes all the way up, distortion's off, a no limiter on it. So it looks like it's a very, very, very light compression. Here's without. It feels like it's fattening up the low end maybe a little bit. Up next is a multipressor, and I think this is a general preset I've used in the past, but I've kind of tweaked it enough to where it's not there anymore. I couldn't tell you what this is exactly, but I mean, these look like they're not changed at all. Just, you can see the compression ratios here of the compressor threshold and the expander threshold. These are kind of more open, and this one's definitely doing a -20 versus -9 and -7 on the compressor threshold. The expander threshold is actually all the same across them. So just doing a little more compression threshold on the top end. Or I guess channel 3 is not even in there. Channel, what is it? It's this one. Actually, channel 1's not even in there. It's just these 3 here. I'm dumb. So these 2 here are getting squashed a little bit more, whereas the low end's left a little more open. Seems like that's what's happening here. I'm bringing that kick out. I mean, this is what's making the snare and the top. And again, like, this could be overhyping it too much. Like I said, I almost like it without this. I mean, this is part of the mastering process, but this is really starting to make the track, like the graphic EQ kind of brought a lot of frequencies out to kind of bring stuff out, if that makes sense. The compressor fattened it up a little bit in the bottom end, and now this is making it punch, the kick and snare punch a lot more. And this is basically the final mix. The last thing is the ad limiter, and all I'm doing is I'm doing a limit, a -0.1 dB limit, and then I'm adding a little bit of gain. Here it comes. So a little lower volume, a little higher volume. That's it. And that's basically it. But there's one more trick that I haven't added that I want to add, because I've only got a few more minutes left before I close out the session. And this is hopefully going to be the thing where I can finally bounce and mix and be happy with it. We may have to go look at another session to see what I did, but I'm going to try and do it from scratch. So I'm going to add one more channel EQ. And this channel EQ is not allowed to boost anything, only allowed to take stuff away, because we've already added our ad limiter. So this is actually after the final ad limiter, which probably shouldn't happen, right? But what I'm going to do after this as well, this is not an effect, it's just a meter, is we're going to pull up a meter. So I'm going to go to metering, you can see that, cool, yes. And then I'm going to go to the multimeter and open up the multimeter. And we're going to do some analysis on the multimeter to see what is peaking too much. This is going to be hard to do because I kind of need to do it through the whole song, but I'm going to try and just pick sections we can listen to and see what's not working, what is working. Let me bring this size down a little bit. 100%. There's a lot of top end here that probably needs to get tamed, right in this section. Yeah, look at that. The lows seem fine so far, but the kick is coming in. The lows aren't too bad yet, but again, we haven't kicked into the hard part yet. All this here.
promise did I make the choice to come back? I thought that I was heading home. My eyes
I'm gonna start carving. First this, about 8K.
With every ounce of energy, I strain my memory. That voice I heard didn't have a form, whispering to me. All I remember is oblivion. The warm embrace of light pulling me into its arms, and the fear that grew.
I'm gonna shave off some of this super high here at the very end. Like this.
To receive the light's embrace, surrender of the self. Look over the
Carve off some of the lows.
precipice that all your eyes can see.
Fairly smooth, but
You've been told existence is a false
I'm gonna
reality.
get all the way up to 200.
The truth is we are the rulers of this construct universe. We build the majesty of all that your senses observe.
And now we're starting to look a little smoother across the board.
Which country you truly serve? Feel your
Okay, I'm gonna pause it there because what I'm feeling still is some harshness in general. And I'm gonna show you a really cool trick really quick that I learned a long time ago from a great Rick Beato video that I can never find again, and you can probably find it if you search for it. If I go into my photos, I took a photo of a long time ago, and in Google Photos you can search, and if I search for mastering or EQ, it usually comes up for me. And I have a photo of an EQ curve that has worked almost every time, that has been crazy, to basically be a final mastering EQ, to kind of fix like a lot of problems in general. You gotta give me just a second to find it. I wish I could remember the guy's name. If you find the video, or you know the video, or if you know this trick, definitely put it in the comments because I would love to find this video again. But this is from a Rick Beato video a long time ago. EQ mastering. And do you see that curve right there, what he's got going on? You can see he's doing a big dip right here that's like starts from 5K and goes past 2K just a little bit, and it just carves all of that out, right? And then he's got a dip at like, what is that, 620, 350, and 160, and then kind of lets the low end be what the low end is. But there is a roll off from about 80 to 110, and this is what I'm going to imitate now to finish off what I just did. Granted, I think I just lost everything I just did in this EQ that I was messing with. I've had this happen twice now. What is the deal with this? Is that, interesting. Do you see that I went away from the thing? Oh, it was because Logic crashed and it didn't save what I just did. I didn't know that it did that. So when it crashes like that and you have to recover, I didn't realize it actually closes out what you just did, so that sucks. Anyway, what I know is that we had this going on right here. We had this, sorry, you can't see this. Give me a second. There we go. What I know is that we had this probably about right there. We had a cut at 8K-ish. They have a, oh, what's going on here? They have a first strike contingent privacy, which means you wouldn't be able to place an offer that is contingent. Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's see. Maybe that's an okay thing. We had a dip right here about 8K. I think I moved it over just a tiny bit, and this was almost 4 decibels. I'm just going to put it at 3.6 for now. How about that? And then we're going to bring this in to like right there-ish. And this is not part of the thing from him yet. His carve, his first big carve that happens, which I'm going to use this one here, this band, is it starts at 5K and it goes all the way a little past 2K, to be honest. It's like the second dip. So I'm going to go like 1K. So like kind of like maybe about right here is where the dip should go. We're going to come like this. And it's a pretty huge carve. I'm going to do like this because it starts about 5K. 5K being somewhere in there. Yeah, the top of it should land at 5K basically. And in fact, this probably should get squeezed a little more. And I might need to bring the top end up using the shelf right here. So like I have this shelf and let those peaks kiss the top. I don't want to have that go up higher though, because again, I don't boost anything too much. So that might just have to be what it is. If I bring this out more, do I get my 5K back? Yeah, but then we don't get the 4K down. So probably about right there is probably close to what his carve is without like getting into like a massive graphic EQ, just using the basic channel strip EQ. The next carve he does, well, so then I did a carve, well, we did a total carve. We did to like the 110 thing. So if this is 100 here, this is 200 here. 110 is probably about right here. So I'm just going to do a total dip like this. I feel like we're going to take it all the way to 200 to be honest. And then what I want to do is I want to use, what I've got 2 more bands left because this is used. Yep. I want to do this 630. So 500, 600 is probably about right here. Oh yeah, I mean you can see right there. There's 630, 630 hertz. Bring this down like this, and this is not as an aggressive. This is not. This is probably more like a 2 decibel thing like this. And then I'm going to use this one to do. There's a slight dip. So there's a 110 dip. The 110 is a little more. Yeah, we could do 110. It's like I kind of want to add a boost back in at some point. Probably what we could do is maybe add a boost at the 200 mark. So maybe we do like this, because it seems like after 110 there's a 200 and then there's a 630. It's hard to tell exactly. Oh, I think he had it at 350. So this was like a boost at 350, which I don't feel like is quite right, but maybe we'll put that there. So if we do a boost at 350, and that's just to negate this coming all the way across here like this is kind of what my goal is. So I'm going to do like this and like this. There we go. And that is, let me close it out. Let me save so we can save that. And then we will look, I'm going to turn it off. Here we go from the guitar section again. Loud volume coming in. Here we go, 2, 3. I still feel like there's some highs that I don't like, that are a little harsh. But I'm wearing these Sony headphones. These Sony headphones are a little harsh. All right, we're gonna go back from the beginning of the song and just look at it one more time. I've got, I'm 3 minutes over my time, so I gotta get going here in just a second. But let's listen through one more time. Now we've got this EQ in place. I probably haven't dipped it quite enough. I wanna say in his picture he goes -5, what is he at, -5 on this thing? Which is close to where I'm at on some of these. I feel like I might be cutting a little too much here. Granted, I'm not a negative. There's my -4. Let's bring him down. Let's bring him down to like negative. Let's really accentuate these. I feel like I was losing a little too much somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure where yet. I'm gonna crank them to these highs like this, a little more subtle. Okay, let's now save and from the top. Here we go. And again, we're watching our analyzer here, and I'm just going for. I've analyzed other people's songs before. Like I've gone through like Foo Fighters stuff, Queens of Stone Age stuff, Ghost stuff, and to be honest, like no one actually does this flat. I don't know why I'm going for a flat response, but the more I went for a flat response, the more pleasing it was to my ears of not being harsh. So I don't know if that's the right approach or not. I am not a trained mixer, but I mean, you hear the results. So here we go. Bring the volume back up. So here's -2 of full volume. Still a little too much on those 8K highs, right? I'm gonna pull it back one more time and see if that tames that now. We can jump up a little. We can jump up ahead a little bit. A little better.
Spirit ascending to begin the journey home.
feels a little harsh. I'm gonna bring the lows up just a little bit.
Just like that, I was snapped back into my body. What did I just witness? Did I make the choice to come back? I thought that I was heading home.
I'm gonna take this carve here and spread it just a little more.
With every ounce of energy, I strain my memory. That voice I heard didn't have a form, whispering to me. All I remember is oblivion. The warm embrace of light pulling me into its arms, and the fear that grew inside me from a sense I've always felt is to receive the light's embrace, surrender of the self.
Maybe still a little too much boominess in some places.
Look over the precipice that all your eyes can see. You've been told existence is a false reality. The truth is we are the rulers of this construct universe. We're the majesty of all that your senses observe. Which card do you truly serve? I feel your
I feel like we lost the snare.
my soul exceed my body. Spirit ascending to begin the journey home.
I might need, obviously, like, look at the syllabants on this journey on all the vocals. Obviously, I'm using a lot of high end, so I might need to go back through and tame some of the vocal high end that's there. I think that's what most of this garbage is up here for the most part, because it only pops up then. I feel like I've lost the snare a little bit, to be honest. I kind of want to go through one more time, maybe just a little bit, not the entire song. I'm going to bring this, I feel like I went too far with this overall up to 350. I'm going to bring this back to like 110-ish or whatever. I'm going to bring this down. I want to do the cut that he originally had. So like looking at the EQ spectrum again, he's got a definite cut at 110. Is that one? Sorry, that's 100. That's 120. That looks like it might be 160. I think that this cut that I'm trying to look at right there towards the end. See there's a 100. There's the 80, 100. I think the next one after 100 is a 120, and then that must be. That's got to be at least a one. I feel like it's a 160. I'm not sure, because then there's the 3.5 there that I assume is a 350, and then the 630. We've got the cut at the 630. Maybe it's a little too much, to be honest, but I think that 110 cut might be important. I'm not sure. And we kind of have it here a little bit. If I come here, yeah, I mean, it's the 110's already kind of in here, right? Because here's 110. We could do a more heavy cut there, but I don't know if that's giving us that much. Let's try from right here. Heavy volume, here it comes. Turning it off. Oh yeah, a lot of mud right there, huh? Let's So here's a good thought. Here's a good trick real quick. Let me just try this because we'll see what these are actually doing. I'm kind of just following a thing that a guy said. I don't know why it's any of this stuff. So the 110 there sounds like it's a lot of mud. Let's go to the, that's 110. Sorry, it's meant to be 160. Still though. All right, so let's go to the 160 mark and see what that sounds like. I'm going to accentuate it and then I'm going to cut it. And I'm not saying this is a one size fits all. At the end of the day, you got to use your ears, and that's kind of what I was doing towards the end there. I was using my ears to kind of carve stuff. But here we go. It sounds worth cutting. Here's without. I think it cleans it up a little bit. I don't think it's huge. Let's go to the 350 mark. That was his next dip. 350. Yeah, I think it's 350. Here we go. Let's here we go. Oh, what's Yeah, there's for sure some nastiness there. And then finally, let's, I don't know if I hear a huge difference in cutting it. Let's go to this one here. So it seems like these are just getting rid of some whistling frequencies, if that makes sense. And I don't think that's necessarily a huge problem that I'm having. The question is, I feel like the 160 was the one that I liked cutting the most because there was just some boominess there that sounded good. Getting that out of there. I'll make this a pretty wide, and these look like they're pretty wide cuts, to be honest. I feel like that, I mean, this thing goes all the way from like at that 160 cut there at the end, which is on the low end. Where is it at? There you go. You can see it there. So there's the 35 right where his hand's at, and then there's the one. It's essentially a 160, and then back before there's 110. So you can see from the 160 up, which is kind of what I've got here, it goes all the way back to like 60. So like this is a really wide. Like back this direction, like almost to like that. I don't know that it swings all the way up to like 3 feet, because it seems like there should be a boost between 160 and 35 to get the frequency back up a little bit. Let's see what this sounds like. Without. The whole thing about what he shows here is that these frequencies are like the frequencies that you would never notice that are gone or not gone. What you notice is that things get cleaned up, but it doesn't take away from the overall sound. And I do feel like that's what I'm hearing. I feel like it's not a huge difference, but it does clean things up a little bit. Whereas like I don't really, like they're not taking away from the overall sound. So I think that does work. That might be too much of a cut. And again, I'd want to use my ears for this. I still feel like I've got some harshness that I don't like. I'm going to just bring this overall all the way to 1K. This is just the high shelf, and I'm going to bring the highs down like this. Let's see what that sounds like. The one thing I'll say is I feel like I've lost the snare, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to boost to 200 instead. Just like that, and I'm going to bring this up a little more. And when I say a snare, I mean the body of the snare. Let me go to a different part of the song that doesn't have all the high-end guitar stuff.
You've been told existence is a false reality. Truly sad. I feel your
Okay, I think I'm gonna leave it there. Let me play from the top as I kind of wind down and talk about this. I don't feel like I'm quite there yet, but I also think I'm only listening on these headphones, and at some point I've got to take the headphones off and I'm listening to the speakers in the room. As I turn it down though, everything's starting to feel a lot more balanced. I like the accentuation of this, but again, when you crank that level, everything gets a little harsh. So this smoothed everything out quite a bit, I think, and we're in a much smoother place now, while we've lost a little bit. I'm not sure if we lost too much high end or not, but I need to go listen to the car now, I need to go listen on different speakers, listen to my phone. But this feels a lot smoother. I will also say we've lost volume here too, right? So like our overall volume, I guess if I keep playing here, you know, we've essentially negated what our ad limiter was doing. So our ad limiter is setting a limit, and then we're just cutting stuff after the fact. Final cut. So I think ultimately what I have to do is I'd have to take this back into mastering, and then basically bring all those levels back up again to essentially like your mastered levels, because now this is probably lower than it should be. But anyway, I'm really happy with this. This meter looks a little better. If we go to different parts of the song, everything feels a little smoother. And it's looking a lot more even now, right? I mean, obviously we've got some dips here, but I think that's supposed to be. I might have lost some low end kick.
That voice I heard didn't have a form, whispering to me. All I remember is oblivion. The warm embrace of light pulling me into its arms, and the fear that grew inside me from a sense I've always felt is to receive the light's embrace, surrender of the self. Look over the precipice that all your eyes can
Cool.
see.
Yeah, I think ultimately I'm fine with that for now. I'm going to bounce this out. I'm going to listen to it in the car. Hopefully come back tomorrow with a new perspective. But it's getting closer. This is again, I'm jack of all trades. I'm not a professional. This isn't what I do for a living. I'm just trying to make the music the best that I can. You can go back and follow this song, particularly this song is called The Journey Home. If you go back and look at my live side of the Grand Kitten page, you'll see where I was recording the vocals for this. You'll see where I was recording the guitars for this, the bass guitar. I basically write all and compose all the music, and then I hire musiversal musicians to fill out the rest of it. So all the violin, the cellos, I can't play string instruments like that, and the drums, I can't play drums. I've got a live drummer I use, Mark Bland, who's going to be on some of the recordings. On this recording right now, this is Horacio Paris, musiversal musician. Cello player on this song, I think, is Emmanuel Pavon. Violin, I think, is Kimberly Derflinger. And I think that's all I have on this particular song. But musiversal's been a great tool to use to get real instruments on these songs. It's been super cool to be able to do that. And if you watch the session with Paris, with Horacio, he has so much fun doing these songs, and it's so much fun. It's a blast making these with him. It's crazy how good these guys are. Whereas it takes me a lot longer. But anyway, let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts. I think we're in a good place. But I'm gonna get out of here for now. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm gonna close you out with this song, and I'll see you next time.
My soul looks in my body, spirit ascending to